Hey there, welcome to NZ Money Karma, where you can find freedom from the daily grind through budgeting, simple living and adventure. Welcome along everyone today. Crikey. We are in, I've just come home from a walk with my husband and we've just got a lot of family members at the moment who are really struggling for one reason or another, and I know it's quite easy sometimes to be judgy, isn't it? Like it's very easy just to sit back in a particular position and just go, oh well, if they've done this or they've done that or blah blah. But you know, for all sorts of different reasons, people don't make the same decisions that you would or maybe I would. They make their own decisions, and sometimes those decisions have terrible consequences. And for some people that's going bankrupt. That's something that's happening, you know, in our extended family. We've got friends whose parents are having health issues and they're not in a financial position to kind of offer, you know, real tangible support. You know, like they can't take the time off work, or they can't make, you know, the regular trips, that kind of stuff. They're just not in a really solid financial position, so that when the bad things happen, they're able to kind of help in a way that they would want to. And yeah, it's just, it kind of weighs us down a little bit, because we're worried about a few people in our lives and just trying to think about the best way that we can kind of support them going forward as they, I guess, learn their lessons and grow from the experiences they're having. But crikey, one thing I will say is I think this whole cost of living crisis kind of title, I think it's a crock. I think what it is really is a cost of existence crisis. It is so expensive just to exist. And the reason I want to bring this up today is because, you know if you've been watching for a while, that my family is living on $40,000 a year. But I just want you all to know, if you haven't kind of gleaned it along the way, you know, we don't just make $40,000 a year. We don't have any debt, so we've paid off our house. We have a really robust emergency fund. We have done lots of background work before getting to this point of saying, okay, let's try and live on $40,000 a year. So if you're someone who is earning $40,000 and kind of looking at this channel and thinking, oh my goodness, well, they're living on $40,000 and we've got $40,000, but I don't seem to be able to, you know, go to Australia or do this or do that. Please just know we're starting from different points, right? I haven't always lived on $40,000 a year. We've done lots of things in the past. We've always lived quite frugally and never ever spent all that we made. We've always saved one income, for example. But you know, I'm nearly 50 years old, so we've been doing this for a while. So please, if you're at the beginning of your journey, almost like an awakening to how personal finance works, please don't be comparing, you know, yourself with anyone else, because everyone is different. Everyone starts from a different point. That's another whole issue, isn't it? Like, it's not an even playing field. We don't all start at the same point. For me, you know, my parents haven't gifted me any money or anything like that, but I definitely had plenty of advantages growing up that lots of other people didn't. You know, even my husband, for example, had less advantage growing up than I did. So I recognise that, you know, you get to where you get often kind of on the backs of other people, and whether or not that's a financial help or whether or not that's just teaching you the ways of the world, that can also be, you know, incredibly valuable. And that's not stuff I was born knowing. That's stuff that I've been taught by my family growing up. So, you know, it's kind of easy for me to make sensible decisions with money because that's all I've ever known. You know, I've never known, you know, what it might be like to come home and not have food in the cupboard, or not to be able to go away on a school trip or play a sport, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, that stuff was always taken care of for me as a child, and I knew as I became an adult what I needed to do. I know I needed to, you know, save some money. I had to buy a house, you know, etc., etc. I knew these things because that is what I had grown up learning. So it's a very long story, basically to say, I'm sure every single person watching is doing their very, very best with what they have and what they know. Hopefully there's something you can learn from this channel. That's why I do it. But if not, that's cool. Just take it with a grain of salt and take what works for your situation and discard what doesn't, because we're just on YouTube. Not everything I say is going to work for every person. It's just what's happening in our house and what works for my family. But yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge all that, because life is hard out there at the moment for a lot of people, and I hear that and I recognise it, and I don't want to gloss over it. And just, I don't want anyone to feel bad if they watch this and think they should be doing something, that they're unable to do. So there you go. That's it. Cost of existence crisis. I hear you. I'm not sure how much our rates are going to go up this year, but we're about to make our 4th rates instalment. That's just under $1,500 every quarter, and I hear it's going up between 15 and 20%. So that's going to be about another $300 a quarter now we have to come up with. So we'll have to have another relook at the budget. On the flip side, I don't know if anyone will actually be able to read this, but this is what my budget looks like before I come and sit down to do a cash stuff. Shall I move that plant a wee bit so you can see it? There you go. So I'm going through and I'm saying, okay, what do I think? So I started here, for example, with food, and I'd written $250. I write down what I think I want, and then I add it all up, and then I'm like, oh, actually that doesn't work. Here it was, I'm $200 over. Okay, so I've got to go back and make it work. So I'm going back, I'm crossing things out until the numbers all work. And it takes a while. It's not a quick process. I kind of sit down with all my binders, my budget, and spend about an hour on this every week or two, just to make sure it's working. Then, I don't do this anymore, but it's actually probably good practice to do, and I should do it if I was going to be following my own advice, would really be to sit down with my husband and go through and go, okay, this is what I'm setting aside, and this is where we're at. I don't do that though. Whoops. So here we are. So the point of my budget here is to make sure we have enough to meet our needs, like our weekly needs are met, the kids' needs are met as much, always their needs are met, yes, but then also some wants. There's plenty of kid wants in this budget. But I want to know that when we go to the doctor, there's money there to pay for the visit and a prescription. That there's money for a dental visit every year, that we can go to the hygienist a couple of times a year, that, when Christmas comes around, there's money in an envelope for that. It's not like, oh my goodness, Christmas is next week, how do I come up with $500? That's the opposite of what I'm trying to achieve with these. And hopefully, if you guys are cash stuffing or even virtual cash stuffing, putting it into different kind of envelopes online, you'll be in a similar position. It's payday today, the money's going out, and we tell every single cent where to go. So there'll be nothing left over out of this. And there's $1,000 here that equates to my $500 per week in cash that I have to spend. The other $300 is online per week, and that goes into online accounts. But again, at the end of that process, there's no money left over. Like we are saying, we have a budget of $800 a week, and we allocate $800 a week. We don't allocate $790 and then go, oh look, we've got $10 left over, what should we do? We are very, very specific with the money that we have. It's a lot of talking. So I'll crack on with what I'm going to be doing. And I did also want to talk about something exciting that we have had an opportunity to do. Haven't done it yet, and I'm going to have to save some money. I don't know exactly how, but I'm determined to save it out of this here for no other reason other than A, it will help me keep to my budget, and B, I just want to show that it's possible to have the odd little treat even on a tight budget. I can't have this treat out of any of our sinking funds because I've spent them all. All the money we've saved over the last couple of years that we've been putting into sinking funds is basically gone. I've emptied the holiday one. I've emptied the house maintenance one. Yeah, those are kind of the two. We have a kids one. That's not completely empty. The education one is rebuilding again, you know, so I don't have anywhere to kind of steal from. I have to save it if I want to do this thing. So I'm going to show you how I'm planning to do this. But first of all, get sorted and stuff this grey binder. So this one here is for, if anyone hasn't seen this before, this grey binder is the binder that has to be stuffed. Like we couldn't exist if we didn't stuff this binder. We would quite literally starve. I don't know, maybe after 3 months we'd starve. We'd probably be okay for a while. But you know, it has to be stuffed. There's, and the majority of this money gets stuffed in this binder. I would love to be able to cut it down so that there was more money for these other ones, but I just can't do it. I just can't do it. So anyway, we'll start off with food. I have $5 left over from our food shop last fortnight, so I'm going to put that aside because that's going to go in my challenges. And I'm going to reallocate myself $230. Oops. So there's 230. Now, what can I say? We have some real pressure, some, again, family pressures, right? Not my own immediate family, this is extended family, you know. There's a lot of people coming to stay with us, and so I'm going to be responsible for feeding, how many more people? So there's 4 in our family, so probably about 10 people over the next week. So I'm going to have to be thinking really creatively about what I'm actually going to feed them. Some of those people are little kids though, so they don't eat too much, do they? I'll definitely be doing something involving sausages, I'm sure. But I've got 230, and that's one thing I might actually look at doing a video on in the future is how do you stay social, or how do you be a good host to people when you're living on a really tight budget? Because if I just had $500 here, it would be really easy to have people come and stay. And we have people come pretty regularly. I would say every 3 months we would have at least 3 or 4 people come and stay. You know, we live in a nice city, lots of people like to come here for a break, and we like hosting people. I do just sometimes find it a little bit stressful trying to feed everybody. But where there's a will, there's a way. We won't eat spaghetti on toast, so I always try and make something kind of halfway decent. But I am going to have to think, I don't know, see if anyone has any ideas about good budget meals that you can kind of cook in a roasting dish that can feed tons of people all at once, I would love to hear them. So that's food, that's 230, so I can, you know, I've got that one sorted. Pocket money, $40. We have, you'll know with our kids we asked them to do a budget spreadsheet, and one of my kids hadn't been keeping up with it, and so I hadn't been giving the pocket money, but we sat down a weekend or so ago to do that, and they were quite surprised at the amount of money they had been spending on lollies. And I was also quite surprised, but took it as a teachable moment and have started to do something a wee bit different there so that they can learn how to make, you know, it's okay to waste some money on things like lollies, but it's not okay to waste like $100, for example, on lollies over the course of a month. Just saying. Yeah, so that's $10 for each child per week. Petrol, I didn't put any petrol money in last fortnight, and we're down to about halfway, I guess. So I was going to put in $15 today. Don't really want to use all these 5s up, but we'll see how we go. I might have to come back and do something different. So that's 35, and I will add that to the petrol. this week, or my husband will, because yeah, I don't want it to get below halfway. And work travel, my husband's been away for his work week, and I have to put in, ideally I'd put in 125 each fortnight. That would just tidy it up perfectly, but I don't have that because I need to find $200 this week that I hadn't planned for a new envelope, which is a super fun envelope, but not a very practical envelope. So work travel is going to get 110. School fees. Now there's been some lost uniform items, and so I've taken money out of here to repurchase those. I was a little bit annoyed about it originally, but I learned a good lesson, and then I went and lost something myself. And then I thought, okay, you can't really nut off at the kids for losing things, and then there you are doing it yourself. So $200 into here, and that will have to wait another fortnight before I can put that back to the bank, because there is not $1,000 there. And then I've got sports costs, so this needs another $100. And then poor old Garden is only going to get $5 this week because there's just not that much money. So what have I got? 150, 70, 80, 85. And I have definitely been taking bits of money out of different envelopes for some of the big expenses that we had this last week. Yeah, that just didn't really work with what was in the envelopes. I'll show you what those are as we go. So straight into the blue envelope, this is, well, not envelope, blue folder. This is my second most important envelope. And I want to just put $10 into some of these things. So let's see, for doctor I was going to put in 15. So let's see, what can I do here? So if I put that in, that's 5. And then I still need to use a 10. We have been to the doctor, so this has been depleted. There's only $80 in there at the moment. Is that right? Yeah, so there's just $80. That's right. Really, I had the plan this week. I was going to put $40 into each of these 5 envelopes. I went through all my things and went, okay, 5 things, what can I prioritise? But then this other thing came up, you know, as they do in budgets, and it's not super important. And if I didn't have a robust emergency fund, I would definitely not be doing this other thing. I would be focusing on these. But knowing that I have an emergency fund does, I know, give me a little bit of leeway, I guess, and makes me feel a little bit like actually it's all right to take a bit of a budget risk and try and do something. Now I'm just going to leave that to the side because I need $10 for that, and it's just not working out. So that's the doctor, the optometrist. I was going to put in $10 for the optometrist, so I'll just replace that with a 20, and then that squares me out there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 105. So I'm like a third of the way through what, you know, we need $300 odd in there. And then the dentist is also only going to be getting $10 today. Let's see what we've got. 2, 3, 4, 5. Swap that out and just take 2 of those, make it all nice and tidy. Double check. And dog food. Now that was also going to be getting 10, but again I don't have a $10 note, so I'll put those two to the side and I'll put it with a 20, and hopefully as I go through I'll be able to swap that out. Are you guys having a good week? Is your budget on track? This one here, also pretty much empty. So had a birthday, went really well. And then I had a little birthday bonus. And that birthday bonus was the present that we bought didn't fit. It was a new pair of rugby boots. They were really nice, they're pretty expensive. We had $200 allocated for birthdays, and it used a really good portion of that. But they didn't fit. So I biked back to the shop to swap them over. And the shop was on sale, so they actually gave me a cash refund because I paid in cash. They gave me a cash refund, to make up the difference between what we paid and what they currently are today. Or not today, but on sale. Yeah, so that was a really good bonus. So that was awesome because then that money could be put with the money that was left over, and we went out and ate something. So it worked out absolutely perfectly. So I've got this $5, and as always, there's always another birthday to kind of save for, and that's what we're going to do. So I'm just going to add another $5, and that gives me 10, and then we're starting on the next birthday. Bikes, you can see, completely empty. We've had so many bike things happen. Needed a new tyre. What else did we have? Needed some chain oil, punctures. It's just been full on, and so this has been emptied, and I've also gone through other envelopes, like this clothes envelope for example, and taken money out of there so that I could fund this. But that's all right. We ride our bikes everywhere, so we've got to have bikes that work. And I know that really to buy the things that I'm going to need to buy over the next quarter, I probably need about $300 in here. Maybe $150 would get me what I need, but $300 would provide a buffer. So that needs to, once I've got this envelope, these envelopes here in the blue binder stuffed to the right amount that I think is the priority amount, like what needs to be in each envelope, then I can move them to the back of this binder, which is just funded for now. So that means I don't need to put money in these each week until I use them. And then that will enable me to put other priority, what the next priority is, I'll be able to put it into the blue binder and then maybe work harder on stuffing those. So clothes has had a bit of a hit, and we don't really need any clothes. See, now these here are all meant to be 10s and 5s. Let me put that there and just skip ahead. So Christmas, that was going to be $10, but maybe that should just be, I'll put that there and I'll put in 10 there. I have actually bought one Christmas present. So there's 145 there. I bought a Christmas present. It cost me less than $2. So I didn't actually take it out of here. I just used change that was in my wallet. Less than $2. It was $1.70, and then it came to like $1.90 something with tax. So I won't reveal all now, but closer to Christmas I will be showing you what I kind of get the kids and stuff. So watch this space. I'm super, super happy. But if you haven't started looking for Christmas, now's the time. It's just start early, take the pressure off. If you like to give gifts, you don't have to give 100 gifts. One gift is actually okay. Take the pressure off yourself. If you're not bothered about giving or getting gifts at all, let people know. Like I personally don't want any gifts. I have everything in my life that I need and the ability to get anything that I want. So for me, it clutters up my life having things. Unless someone knows me really well and can, or is willing to actually just say, hey, is there one thing that you'd really like that you're not buying for yourself. You know, if that's the case, then, you know, if I would accept a great gift, I would. But I just don't want things that aren't what I actually want. So surprises, I'm not really into anymore. I used to love a surprise, but I've had so many surprises that, I don't know, kind of just aren't what I want, that now I feel like, oh, actually, better just not to worry about it. And I am very pleased to report that we will be spending this money. The invoice is on its way, I'm told. So that's for Ronan, our hero rat. Is that what we call him? I've posted something on the community page, which is an article that was in Stuff recently about the Gambian rats in Cambodia who sniff out landmines. We met those rats when we were in Cambodia a couple of years ago and have sponsored one ever since. And this money one is for sponsoring of the rat, and the other one is sponsoring an elephant called Rapsu through the David and Daphne Sheldrick Wildlife Foundation in Kenya. Also elephants that we met once upon a time in our travels when we used to do kind of really interesting things. It's been a while. Okay, this again is a 5. I'm just going to steal that 5 because otherwise I'm just going to have nothing to stuff. Shoes and tech and warrant and rego, those are all 5s. How am I going to make that work? Yeah, so I've got a lot of things that are 10s. So can I give myself a little bit more, a tiny bit more grocery money and free up 2 5s? How's that? Let's try that. So giving's done. Dog groom, he's getting 5. And we've got 30 in there now. 30 of the 90 that we need. Shoes needs to get a 5. Tech and rego and warrant, they also need 5s. Let's see if I can rustle some up. Where did those 10s go? You're probably saying, oh, I totally remember exactly where you put your 10s. I don't. There's one there. But I can't really afford to put more than $5 in these particular envelopes. Do you know what I mean? Like these are not the priorities. If I've got extra money, it needs to be going into here. So let's see. Oh. Yeah, it's definitely not going to work without the 5s. See, these are the real life budgeting conundrums, aren't they? When it just doesn't bloom work. And I can't actually afford to give the extra money into there. I'm going to have to come up with a plan. Which I don't know what that can be. Anyway, it is what it is. So I needed $10 in each of those, which I don't have. I have $180 here, which is less than I need because I haven't stuck to the budget because I've put more money into particular things than I had. I'm just going to have to actually take this. This is actually all I can do. So I'm sorry, birthdays, you'll just have to wait another fortnight before you have another crack. Another crack at whatever it is. And then I can only put $5 in there because that's all I have. So my mission is going to be to obtain some $10 notes. So my budget this week is thwarted, not through lack of planning, but just through lack of physical cash. If I get some change through anything during the week. Like if, for example, I have to go and buy something and I get some change, then I will definitely put something back in birthdays. We do have a birthday in, it's not a big family birthday, just a little one, something that we will have to contribute to, and that is going to be when another 5 or 6 weeks or so. So now I am left over with my $200. This is what I was aiming for when I started that. And I'm kind of just wondering, like it's so stressful, isn't it? Like you say yes to things and you really want to do them and you really want to do them for your kids, but it creates a bit of stress when you are living on a budget and you don't get much lead-in time. So it's different if someone says, oh, this time next year, do you want to do X, Y, and Z? Then I feel pretty confident that I can almost always make it happen somehow. But when I get short notice, as in I've got 5 cash stuffs between now and when this thing is, then I am under a whole heap more pressure. And I'm just wondering if in order to take the pressure off myself, I should just forget about it for this week, focus on these things and kind of get them out of the way. Like I could get rid of some of these, like let's see, how much have I got in dog food and how much do I need? So I've got only $20. I probably need 80 to be honest. Now, let's stick with the original plan. It's tempting just to want to go and get rid of it and start from scratch. That's how I feel. Like it's nice just to go, oh, that's all taken care of. Now there are less envelopes, but the money required is still the same. So there's absolutely no point in doing that, and psychologically it's not going to help me either. So there's no financial point and there's no psychological point to doing that. So my $200, what am I going to do with it? My daughter and I are going to go to, have you guys heard of WOW, World of Wearable Art? It's really cool. It's basically a show, but it's a fashion show, I guess, but it's wearable art fashion, not like high street fashion or, something fancy. It's lights, it's music, it's choreographed, I think. I've never been. The last few years I have seen, kind of taken an interest and thought, gosh, that'd be a cool thing. Then I heard of someone else who was taking their daughter last year and they'd been going for a number of years together, and I thought, oh, that's a really lovely thing. That would be a nice thing to kind of make a tradition for my daughter and I. But I hadn't done anything about it. Hadn't really clocked even that it was on. It just wasn't on my radar. And then someone said, hey, I'm taking my daughter. Would you guys like to come? And I thought the answer is yes. Yes, we do want to come. So I've paid for flights and I've paid for our tickets. And how have I done that? Because I have actually no money here to do it. I have stolen it out of my tax account. Last year I worked as an independent contractor as well as having my usual job. I worked a lot of hours last year and I very diligently put away 30% of everything I earned into a tax account so that when I got my tax bill, I would have money there to pay for it. And I've done that, and that's just sitting in a high interest savings account at the moment. But the tax isn't due until February, so I'm not going to give the money away until February. So I just took it out of there. I have to pay it back, obviously, because I need it. It does belong to IRD now, but it doesn't have to be there today. So I have stolen it out of my tax account, and I need to pay it back. I'm thinking it's going to cost us $1,000 for the weekend. Flights and ticket. I've written down here how much it is. Oh, it's not on this piece of paper. So flights and tickets, I got good flights, $58 one way and I think $85 return the other way. So, 2 of those each. We only need to pay for one night's accommodation because we are going to go and stay with friends for the other nights that we're there, but one night in a hotel with the group. and the tickets were, what were they? $260 for the 2 tickets. So that's what we've spent about $500 so far, and then there'll be a night in a hotel plus there will be, no, we've probably spent $550, wouldn't we have, at least $550. Yeah, so then it's a night in a hotel plus, food or whatever. So I'm thinking $1,000, and I've got 5 pay. So I went, okay, $1,000, you just can somehow wriggle $200 out of this while still feeding your family, paying for school fees, putting money away for work travel, paying for sports, make sure people can go to the doctor, all that kind of stuff. If I could possibly do that, I'm gonna try. Yeah, so watch this space. This is my big challenge. We're definitely doing it, so I've got to come up with the money one way or another. I do have, obviously the option I could work more. That's an option always, isn't it? If you need more money, go to work. That is my least favourite option. I don't want to do any more hours. I'm trying really hard to retire early, and a big part of that being successful, I'm testing it out to see if it's possible, is that we live on a budget. It's quite a small budget. We're not going to have $100,000 a year in early retirement, but we still are going to have these costs. We're still going to have kids who go to school, who have school fees, who need new uniforms. We're still going to have to buy new shoes, groom the dog, all that kind of stuff. So I want to make sure that it's possible to do on a small amount of money before looking to pull the pin. I'm not at that stage yet where I could. I haven't made it, but I'm not too far away. Like in the next few years, I could potentially do that, I think, but only if I'm, only if it's able to work, has to work for the family. So that's it. I need to find a space to put this and keep it safe. $200 towards the world of wearable art for my daughter and I. And yeah, hopefully, it might not be $200 you're putting aside, but maybe it's $20 for a movie, or, to give yourself a night off cooking and just buying some frozen pizzas, something like that. I think once upon a time I would have thought, no, if you don't have any money, you just save it all. That's what you do. You head down, bum up, and save. But everyone needs something to look forward to. Even if it's just a little something, if it's, I don't know, a bottle of wine a month, whatever. If you're on a really tight budget, find something that's just for you, that every now and then you can just break the monotony of living on not much money, because it can be monotonous. The food can be monotonous. It's, when you can't just go and buy any ingredient at the supermarket, you do end up eating the same kind of things quite often. Like in our house, we just call it peasant food. We eat peasant food from around the world. From all different countries, we will eat the peasant food of that country, but it's all peasant food. Like we're not having big roasts all the time and ham on the bone. Like we are living very simply, and that's our choice, and we're happy with it. But that's not to say that sometimes, every now and then you want to break up the monotony of it. So I hope you guys can find something small. Please leave a comment below if what's your tip, trick? What do you do to stay motivated, to stay on track, but still give yourself that little reward every now and then? I'd love to hear about it. Okay, that's it for me today. It's been a bit of a long one. I hope you guys are well, and take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.